The content of this meeting.
What's your other option?
Western Oregon.
Western Oregon.
Yeah,
Where's that at?
Monmouth.
Monmouth, huh?
Mhm.
What's in LeGrand? What is that? What's in LeGrand, Oregon? There's
It
that.
looks like we're
Might be
already.
Oregon
Eastern.
School. Eastern Oregon is there. It's the only thing I guess of, but it may not be.
Probably right. I'm not good at,
Yeah.
I know most of the Oregon schools, but no.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah,
What do you think?
100%.
60 seconds to showtime.
What?
60 seconds to showtime.
Oh, be shutting up then.
I was more subtle about my
And
hand.
Jim,
Yeah.
so Jim, do you want to have Rory tell a little bit about herself upon introduction or maybe in the commissioners' reports? Oh, you did it? Oh, you did. I wasn't here. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
He's the star of Timberline.
I do a lot, but I would not say that.
He's even wearing green to prove it. Not any kind of green, Timberline.
Oh,
green.
6 o'clock?
But you gotta give me just a second.
Okay.
Good evening. This is the March meeting of the Lacey Historical Commission. And what we're going to start with is just calling a call to order, which is basically checking to see who we've got here in person. I'm going to start with the people who are online and just ask you to say aye when I read your name. Kevin Wyckoff.
Aye.
Tulai Patani.
Aye.
Kimberly Getz.
Aye.
And then for those of us who are here, John Halverson
John Halverson present.
at home,
At home, you're present.
Rory Lane,
Rory Line present.
and my name Jim Keough. So we have a quorum. What we're going to, next part we're going to do is what we typically start with our meeting, which is the land acknowledgement. John Halverson's going to be reading that for us.
The Lacey Historical Commission meets on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian Tribe and the Squaxin Island Tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed or relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial, and their role today in taking care of these lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have the responsibility to call attention to the histories of dispossession, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as they have today. We recommend that the community members read the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854, which, by the way, is on display at the State History Museum this week, Pacific Avenue in Tacoma. So,
I've actually been to that display, and I was impressed that the staff who was attending it were quite good at answering questions and providing stories around it, so. With that, we're going to move on to the approval of the agenda, and we've been asked to move one item on the agenda up a little bit, simply recognizing staff time in this particular case. So I would entertain a motion to move the item 4C, Stories of the South Sound Project Update, from 4C to 4A, and then we'll just follow the rest of that portion of the agenda after that.
I'll move that.
We have
I'll
a-
second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Why, Kimberly?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Hearing none, that is done. The next item that we had was to ask for an approval of the February 21st meeting minutes, and so I hope you can refer to those in your packets. Does anybody have any suggestions for changes? Hearing no suggestions, I will entertain a motion to approve those.
So move.
Good. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I second.
And so we have 2 seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I ask for a vote of yay, for those who want to approve it.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
Okay, and any opposed? Hearing none, I think those are approved. Do we have any public comments that have come in? Any indication that we don't?
No written, no written.
No written? Okay,
We do have, but I don't see any online that are attending that might wish to speak, but I do see that we have
right,
people here.
so I think this is a good point if you had anything that you wanted to present.
they're all historical.
All
society
historic
people.
people, okay,
Okay.
so we'll be getting to that later then, okay. So with that, then we'll move on to your report, Felicia.
Like we're not at the beginning. Sorry, folks. There we go. Okay. So I'm very excited to share our progress with Stories of the South Sound oral history project that we've been working on. And I'm Felicia, the museum coordinator with the Lacey Museum. For a bit of review, the ideas for the Stories of the South Sound really came about when thinking of ways we can include community voices in our space. It was very clear that the histories we currently have at the museum that are used for exhibits and educational resources were lacking in representation of what our local communities look like. So the purpose of this project is to create accessibility to the diverse stories of the South Sound area. Narrators, which is a term that we use for our community members that we are interviewing, have the option to interview in audio, video, or transcribed format. We want to create a space in our museum that reflects the community that surrounds it, and at the same time create a space where our community feels that they are included and that their voices are heard in the history that is being shared in our space. So we're going to go over our timeline here. So in July 2023, we were awarded the Diversity and Local History Grant from the Washington State Historical Society, which helped us fund an oral history project intern position. And in end of September 2023, we hired on Fulton Bryant Anderson to fill that role. In October, we hit the ground running. So Fulton and I began to identify community groups we could reach out to. And Fulton began reaching out to those various community groups and community members to promote the project to see if there was interest or if there were potential connections to be made. November to December, Fulton was focused on the marketing of the project through different avenues and still reaching out to people who may be interested in participating. January to present, we are currently meeting with community members that have chosen to participate in the project and building those connections. And then lastly, at the end of this month and early April, we have our scheduled interviews and we will be beginning those interviews. Okay, so for our marketing and outreach, the places we have promoted the Oral History Project have been in the museum newsletter, tabling, poster distribution, and social media. Fulton and I tabled at the Olympia Farmers Market in February. This was to promote Stories of the South Sound and get the word out. We also hosted a memory lab event at the Lacey Museum near the end of February. And Memory Lab was an idea that came out of Stories of the South Sound for community members who didn't want to commit to a formal oral history and could instead participate in a quick 3 to 5 question interview about their experiences in the South Sound. So these are more short form interviews versus the formal sit down where we're interviewing 45 minutes to 2 hours with community members. We also tabled at the cultural celebration a couple weeks ago. At the celebration, we were promoting Stories of the South Sound, but also running Memory Lab as well. And so we had a table talking about what the project is, and then folks could come over to the side of our booth and do quick interviews with us. Fulton distributed posters and flyers to various libraries and bookstores. These flyers had QR codes where people could fill out a survey if they were interested in participating in the project or if they knew someone who might be interested. The survey was also on the back of the flyers in case people needed a physical copy instead of digital. Fulton has been really great with creating material that is posted on the City of Lacey Facebook and Instagram, and that is still ongoing. He also recorded different types of videos to provide examples of what oral history is, what it might look like, what Memory Lab questions might look like, and then to promote Lacey Park staff's favorite types of histories as well. And I do have a few examples here, so I'm gonna new share and then go to the Facebook here. Sorry, folks.
It's a part of the music collection.
Oh, neat.
Fulton, Felicia, are you busy?
No, not really.
What's an oral history?
Let's ask the man on the street.
Hey, man on the street, what's an oral history?
Well, I think we should talk about how they're used. Oral histories are important for historical research, museum exhibits, and more. Anyways, take care from Man on the Street.
Okay. This is our colleague Lauren from the Parks Department.
I enjoy about my home here in Olympia is it's right in the heart of everything. I'm at boutiques, restaurants, parks, I can go to Capitol Lake and I'm close to everything that I love.
And then last one.
South Sound and why?
My favorite place in the South Sound is probably anywhere that I can sit and look out at the Puget Sound. I grew up on 2.5 acres on top of the inlet. So by the water is a special place for me where I can relax and unwind from the day-to-day grind.
Okay. All right, so what our process looks like in this project. So to start, it's outreach. First, we are having Fulton promote the project, and actually that includes reaching out to folks through emails and making those connections. So he's sending emails saying, hey, this is the project we're doing. Would you like to participate or know anyone who would be willing to participate? And from there, we have a project introduction meeting. So then we have a time where we sit down with community members and really explain in depth what this project is, where it will be at in the museum. And if they agree from there, we then move on to a third meeting, which is going over the questions and oral history release form. And so a few reasons we go over the interview questions with the narrators before the interview is to make sure they can choose which questions they want to answer. And if there are topics outside of the questions we have prepared, we can then make sure they'd like to, they're added in so they can discuss them. We want them to be able to know what questions will be asked ahead of time, so that the day of the interview, they're not caught off guard and they're fully prepared. We want to make sure that the interview is as comfortable as possible for them. And then finally, the last step is the interview. So we set aside a time and we meet the narrator wherever they would like to hold the interview, wherever is comfortable for them, at their place of work, in their office, at a library, coffee shop, or even at their home, we go to them. So for us, it really is important to museum staff that this process is done through practice of shared authority that will allow authentic story building experiences and will help build more meaningful relationships with our community members. And by allowing the story sharing experience to be guided by the storyteller, using formats and methods to meet their comfort levels, it allows them to control the direction of the interview to then create more complete history and what is truthful to them. Okay, so currently we have a total of 12 narrators scheduled for interviews. And for Memory Lab, we have completed 10 short form interviews already. So Memory Lab and Stories of the South Sound is ongoing. Our next steps for the project, complete our interviews that we have scheduled already. We will be editing the oral histories to make sure the audio matches up, to make sure that we can take out any extra ums in there. We will also be adding captions at the bottom so that people can read it as well as listen to it. And if it's just audio format, we'll be adding those with like a background image on the screen at the museum as well. So these interviews will later be on display at the Lacey Museum. And then lastly, just continuing to connect with communities. So even after the grant period is done for this project, we will be continuing Stories of the South Sound and Memory Lab. This was definitely more of a jumping point for us to really start this oral history project. And so we want to continue building and nurturing those relationships with our community. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
How did it turn out with the cultural celebration? Did you get some folks to agree?
Yeah, so we actually, I handed out a bunch of business cards to them. And we had some folks that said, let's talk. And so we've been able to send some emails this week, doing some follow-up with folks. And it was really exciting.
Hey, Shay, I have a meeting.
So we lost one.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
I think it's Commissioner Patana. It looks like she has her hand up, but
Oh, okay.
certainly continue.
Okay. But yes, I think we did really well with spreading the word. And then with promoting Memory Lab as well, because not everyone is comfortable with the long sit down interviews. So,
I would think sitting at the library, you might get more folks there to be more comfortable.
mhm.
Do you do that, or is that something on your list?
So we have, because it's just the two of us right now, we're trying to find time to fit in the meeting with the folks that we have scheduled and
Already.
tabling.
Yeah.
But we're actually looking at places that we can table after we've edited some so that they can see what it is, what the project is, and actually view those. Okay.
Commissioner Patani, you have your hand up.
You're muted.
Maybe later?
No, we'll come back around. Any other questions?
I was gonna ask, this at home, and there are people that you're going to interview that would just as soon give a speech to 20 people. You wouldn't think that, but there are. And if you had people that would like to have people hear them, are you gonna schedule any of them to be in front of people?
So with the oral history project, a lot of these folks have agreed to just speak one-on-one.
I know they have.
Yeah, I have not talked to them about speaking in front of people, but they do know these oral histories are going to be on display at the museum. Yeah.
there would be, I would just as soon if they wanted to speak to a whole group, that they would have a group to speak to.
Yeah.
And so I think if you have somebody that asks to do that, you should think very seriously of having them do that. Some people are very good speakers and they don't, they love it.
Yeah.
And they're really good and they really, I don't know, they just put a lot into things, and I would take just one-on-one situation, but they wouldn't. So I think you should get something like that.
Other questions?
I'd like to chime in and just say thank you so much to Felicia and also to Fulton for all of their work on this project. And this, from my perspective, goes beyond a museum project where it's really good for the city of Lacey as well to establish, connections and outreach to the community and hearing, stories from the community, from different groups. And so yeah, just that bigger picture of this outreach that's going on. So I really, really want to thank you for your efforts, and you guys are doing such a great job. So keep it up.
How long do you and Fulton have? How long is his
Yes.
tour?
Fulton will be finished in June, end of June. So that's why we're focusing on the 12 people that we have right
Sure.
now, so that we can get those all edited and ready to go and make sure that these interviews are accessible when we have them up at the museum.
And do you have a timetable for when you want to have those up in the museum?
So they should all be finished, and we will be cutting them down for time's sake, because not everyone can stand in front of a screen at the
Right.
museum for 2 hours, so. But we will be shortening them quite a bit. They will be accessible in our museum collection, so if anyone wanted to view them at a later time, we can do that as well. But yes, we'll have them edited and put on display. And I think that once we have them edited, we should get them up fairly soon. Yeah.
Are you enjoying this?
I am.
I thought you were.
I really love
Yeah.
connecting with community,
Sure.
and that's one of my favorite things about the project is hearing people's stories and seeing history through their perspective.
Question.
Yeah.
Is there anything specific that you want out of these people, or just their experiences?
It's just experiences, because everyone's experience is different. And so that's why the questions we created were very broad on purpose, so that the narrators got to choose what they wanted to share and what they get to talk about, because it's their history. And so it's that shared authority practice that we really want to do. So that, when it goes in the museum, this is what they want to share. This is what they want people to know.
I will ask one last time, do people have any other questions or comments? Well, thank you very much, Felicia.
Yes,
Sounds
thank
like a
you.
fun project.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
looking forward to hearing and seeing some of the results of that.
Thank you, yes.
So with that, we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the new Museum and Cultural Center Funding Strategy Report.
Great, yeah.
And I
thank
think
you.
you're on, Jen.
Yep, thank you so much. So the committee met February 29th, and so what I wanted to do tonight is provide a summary of the meeting, and then I'm gonna share a couple of slides with some items that you might be interested in hearing about. But first, I wanted to sincerely thank Chair Keough and Commissioner Halverson for sitting on the strategy committee and the homework that you've been doing to help us out with this puzzle piece of putting the puzzle pieces together of the funding for the museum project. So just an overview of the agenda items. We talked about community partners, and so that's something I'm going to share my screen on. We talked about so different people on the community committee, brought ideas for funding to the table. So we discussed those, and then Chair Keough did a deep dive on Panorama. So we appreciated getting some information there, and then we identified the next steps for the committee. So The first thing I want to share with you is the community partners list. Helps if I share my screen. And so we were able to really look through this and identify museum partners and champions. And so the way to read this is if there's a star behind the name, it indicates there's been a monetary contribution in the form of a donation, grant, or in-kind service. And then a diamond indicates a support letter was written for the Heritage Capital Projects grant that we received. And then the remainder of the list are community champions. So we're recognizing that not all partners are in a situation where they can donate. Some of them could if they wanted to, but it's nice to see all of the museum partners and champions all on one.
I see the
Screen.
society has a star and a diamond.
Yeah. Yep. I see the Circle Society, a star and a diamond.
Feel a group
Yeah,
support.
so basically, I mean, we do have a lot of partners and champions and there's a lot of potential. One of the things we added was regional tribes. We do have the Squally tribe on here and the Squaxin Island tribe, but we wanted to add, the potential for other regional tribes in the area. So that was something that was added by the committee. So, yeah, feel free to chime in if you have questions, but this is basically just an overview of, the folks that are behind this project. But just not all of them can contribute monetarily at this time. Probably a lot of people from these groups are going to be great volunteers once the new museum is built and supportive in other ways besides the financial contributions. And then the next thing that we talked about were funding opportunities and ideas. I'm going to share another slide here. Oops, not that one. There we go. And you'll recognize this one because it's been shown in different slideshows before. If I move this so people can see. There we go. All right, and so our total funding goal is $13 million. And the way to read this slide is in the green bars are projected in each category below, and the sort of that reddish orange color is funds that have been received for the project so far. And so when we discuss, as a committee or a commission or both, we discuss the museum project, we look at the overall project cost, which is 17.7 million. And the amount that's come in, which is 4.7 million. So that's where the $13 million gap exists. And we show that one category is city funding that in prior conversations, council has committed to the $3 million that's already come in for the project. We were able to use that for match for some of the previous items at the site and for the depot. And then this funding bucket is the biggest. You can see the percentage of the total cost down here at the bottom of each funding bucket. And so here we have our largest one, state and federal funding coming in at just over 60%. And you can see there's a long way to go here. One of the things we discussed at the committee meeting is that there have been some opportunities that we've looked into that aren't viable for this project that we thought originally would be. And so we may need to recalibrate these funding buckets and, make some changes to categories up and down. So that's one of the things the committee talked about. We do have private and corporate foundations, and this is coined at 10% of the project. And this is work that needs to be done by a nonprofit. The Lacey Community Foundation has formed, and they're just getting ready to do a feasibility or a fundraising plan for us. And so their work is continuing, but this is a category where our partner, the nonprofit foundation, is going to be looking into funding in that category. Sponsorships and community partners, that's a city category. That's something that staff will be working on. Individual donations can actually go through a foundation or directly to the city. But this one is mostly, this bucket, the work is mostly going to be done by the nonprofit foundation. And then there's other grants, for example, you know, some of the things that we've gotten in this category before is from Nisqually Indian Tribe. So these are the buckets, and basically committee members brought their ideas on what funding opportunities might exist. And so I'll share some of those with you. We had, the regional tribes is something that I already mentioned, and then talked about like different parties that are close to Lacey that might be interested in the individual giving. Like I said before, that would go through the foundation. We also talked quite a bit about the state and federal ask. Just like I was saying, this is the biggest bucket here. And so we talked about strategy around that. And how, you know, some projects like the Museum and Cultural Center, we plant the seeds over the years. And I brought the legislative report to show you how that's being done right now. So I'll share my screen on that. But basically, you know, what we've been learning is that most successful projects with this type of ask, because some of the other grants that we thought might be available haven't been, the direct ask for the community project is going to be something that most representatives want to do towards the end of the project, once all the rest of the funding is secured, to get it over the finish line. And so, you know, there we run into a timing issue. So that's when I mentioned all the puzzle pieces and trying to put those together, that's one of the factors. And also just the knowledge that our council adopts legislative priorities each year and identifies what our asks will be. So let me show you a different slide here that shows like our federal funding asks. So this is what it looks like, and our assistant city manager puts this together every year, and she does the same thing for state, for the state as well. So it's the 2024 federal legislative priorities. So these are we talked a lot about, you know, the city has to balance what they're asking for, right, across all the different departments. So these were the priorities for 2024. Emergency Coordination Center, College Street corridors, safety improvements, and I-5 corridor from Tumwater to Mounts Road and the Nisqually River Delta. And then, but where you'll see in this report that the museum shows up is, so this goes on to explain the current priorities. And then it's here under future projects. It says Lacey Museum and Cultural Center in the Depot District, and talks about for over a decade, the city has worked on creating this museum and cultural center in the Depot District, and goes on to explain, you know, the project. And so again, we're planting the seeds for a future ask. It just needs to be balanced, and the timing needs to be right.
Is that on the website somewhere?
This, I believe, is on the website.
The 24.
The
Federal
2024.
priorities.
Check the city council webpage. And if you have any trouble, we can send you the link.
Yes.
And then, so basically we talked about, you know, potential funding mechanisms that might be out there. We talked about public facilities districts. We talked about, you know, metropolitan park districts. And basically where we're at right now is, again, we need to recalibrate our funding buckets. We also need to circle back to city manager and also city council and have a conversation about status and where we go from here. And good news is that we actually are scheduled with council on April 23rd to have an overall parks funding conversation. So the museum is obviously one of many projects within the Parks Department itself. But that has been scheduled for April 23rd. We think that, you know, first discussion will be sharing information about different funding that's available, and then having, you know, at least one additional follow-up conversation as well. So that's something new since the committee meeting, but something that will certainly be brought to the next committee meeting, which is April 25th, a couple days after that. So we can kind of debrief after that conversation.
That of staff and council, April 20th.
That's a staff and council work session.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, one more thing I wanted to mention is the Economic Development Administration, so the Washington State EDA. So Chair Keough has done some work on that as well, kind of diving in and seeing if there's funding opportunities there. The regional representative has offered to meet with us. We don't, on initial look, we don't think that we're gonna meet the criteria, but she has offered to meet with us and just see if there's anything that we might be missing or that we could pursue there. So that's a great lead, potentially.
Good working.
We'll see if it turns out.
Don't know until you ask.
That's right, you don't know until you ask. So, and then the other thing I wanted to report out is that Chair Keough also did a deep dive on potential panorama opportunities. It was a lot of good information that you had, and we decided that that's not a funding potential at this time, so.
But probably, I suspect, more for exhibits and that type of thing, and perhaps some of the smaller stuff as compared to the actual capital project.
Yeah, and then next steps that we identified are to reach out to St. Martin's University and talk a little more with them. It's been on our list, we just haven't been able to get to it, to take a deep dive with them on what kind of partnership opportunities might be there. And then also on our list is to, I already mentioned updating the funding slides. So those are our action items before the next committee meeting, which is April 25th.
Has the Lacey Foundation hired an executive director yet? Or is that still in process?
So they haven't hired, it's still in process. So what they've done is, they are contracting with somebody who is going to provide a fundraising strategic plan.
Okay.
So
Just curious.
they've made some steps forward, and I should have more on that pretty soon. So. Yeah.
Could I
so it's
ask one
still-
thing? You only have 2 tribes in there that are, out of all the tribes in the country, is that the only ones we've asked for? Or
Yeah, so,
like the Cowlitz and them have all got making
Yeah.
real good money and they don't have any land. So I think it'd be a good place to talk to some of the tribes that come in.
yeah, actually, so, yeah, when I mentioned,
I know it's on the list, but we only got
Regional.
2.
No, regional tribes, we haven't
Oh.
approached them.
I see.
yeah, so we have regional tribes, yeah.
No, I really did. The Cowlitz especially, they're really doing fine now. And you know who's got that, don't you?
Okay.
That Cowlitz, game place they've got down there, and that,
Ilana,
that's Strophia. I mean, not Strophia, but the other guy used to be chief deputy, but and then prosecutor's office for years. Used to play ball with him.
who's the manager?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just walking everybody's.
Oh, I'm sorry. My Stanley cup. It's funny because I would joke about it being so quite large, my water bottle. All right, so anyway, that's my update from the funding strategy committee. Any other questions I can?
So, yeah, I'd like to ask if there's any questions, and for those of you, we've had several questions here at the table. Are there any questions from our members online? Yeah, but it looks like you just turned on your mic.
Yeah, no, I don't have any questions. I appreciate the information.
Yeah, and I'll be updating as we go along. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is essentially a reminder that we're in the midst of taking recommendations for the Ken Balsey Historian of the Year award that we presented here. We're basically taking those recommendations now through Monday, April 1st. And then there's gonna be, we'll be considering candidates at our next meeting on April 17th. And then there would be an award in May to be made. So you should all have a copy of the press release that talks about that. It was in your packet. And it also lists and mostly note this for purposes of not kicking into a redundancy, the people who've previously won, simply because the rules of this particular award is that we can't award someone who's previously been awarded that. So it's just to help you knock out the ones that you know already have had one. If you have recommendations in that regard, we ask you to send those to Aaron. So, just wanted to remind everybody that that is coming up.
Yeah, and I'll tag on to that. So there has been one nomination so far. And then just a reminder, any nominations that come in will be reviewed at your next meeting, and that is April 17th.
Right.
So.
And then we have our next item, which is actually one we have to approve, which is the recent acquisitions.
Yes, so since Aaron isn't here tonight, I will be doing the acquisition update. So we had some items accepted for the permanent collection from Bev and Charles Lord, and then some items from the City of Lacey Parks Culture and Recreation Department, which is photographs, slides, digital images, and documents. And so, yeah, as always in your packet, there's information on the relationship to the museum, or excuse me, the mission, and then relation to the collection.
So just out of curiosity, what are some examples of some of the ones that are coming in from the City of Lacey?
City of Lacey, so basically, as I've cleaned out hard files and as we've gone more digital, I basically, anything that looked like it would be of interest, so photographs of like parks or events that took place at parks. Those are the ones that are springing to mind. I would just kind of sort of sort them into a different box and then have Aaron go through it.
Mhm.
So,
When I cut the ribbon for the library, do you think that went in there?
oh, I wonder if that one is. Yeah, I did not see that one,
Oh, okay.
sure, but
Sorry, I
You
got
can-
one at home.
you can look at our photos on the website and see which ones. Is that one of the projects that you've helped? No, you did Lacey Leader, not
I've been working
the,
on Lacey Leader.
not the
yeah.
photographs. There's a lot of photograph scanning that happens.
I do have one comment.
It's okay.
Yeah, I had to look up ephemera. You guys are using pretty fancy words. So it means literally in Greek, lasting one day. Did you know that? And part of it was some development had some one-page flyers that they handed out.
Mhm.
And that's what they saved. It would normally not be saved, but some good soul saved their copy. And so we have information about Thompson Place and Tanglewild when they first began.
Cool.
So don't throw out your ephemera, folks. Hang on to it. The city wants it for the new museum.
So, I will entertain, first of all, any questions about this before we go to making a decision? I don't see any hands raised in that regard. So I'll entertain a motion to accept those acquisitions.
So moved.
Kimberly has made the move on that. A second?
I'll second.
Any other questions at home? Made the second. Any other questions? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? I think we've done it.
Thank you.
So then we move on to reports, and we have members from the Lacey Historical Society who are here to do that. Please come to the table.
No. Thank you.
Yeah, you can sit anywhere you want.
I won't need one.
Yeah.
Really quick, we have a handout. My name is Monty Pascual. I'm a board member for the Lacey Historical Society for 9.5 months. And then I'm glad to tell you that we have a new website. It's .com because there's a .org, but it's not in this state. somewhere else. So we took the .com. So if you type in org, you go somewhere else. So with our website, you can join us. And then, we also accept donations. And in that regards, for the second part, we have a special membership meeting on June 6th from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And everybody's welcome to attend. And then since I'm a member of the party committee, I'm not supposed that we have a upcoming picnic too on March this date. It's on June 29th from noon to 4 p.m. We will provide you with free hot dogs and drinks. And then at the same time, we are currently collecting any photos that you have at home, or so we can talk about it during the picnics, old pictures, and then we can borrow it, we can scan it, and then we can, give us information, and then we can share it in our website. So everybody is welcome to join, especially the youths. We need more young guns to come in. And then thank you for, that's my short report for the end. Thank you.
We have two other board members here too.
Oh, in other words, we have actually 4 members here. So in case you don't want to use the website, we can accept checks for your donation. So I'm encourage you guys to all to attend.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Any questions before you?
We have two more board members here.
Okay,
Go ahead
John.
and introduce yourself.
I'm Kendra Hensley and I'm Monty's wife. So next month will be my turn to give the report.
Cheryl?
I'm Cheryl Moffmis. I started out with the food box on the street, still am, and the tree.
We had an opening and she was so excited, she agreed to join our board. So she's on the board.
Great. Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate that. Let's see, I think next up, Kimberly, is there anything to report on the STEPS committee?
And those two.
No, then we are still on hiatus.
Okay,
for
thank
asking.
you. So while you've got your mic on, you might as well do we'll start you off on the commissioner's report.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, I'm just gonna work my way around the screen to start with. Kevin?
I have nothing to report as well.
Okay, Talai?
I have nothing to report, thank you.
I'll work my way around the room here. John?
Nothing new.
Ed?
And nothing new for me either.
Okay.
I have nothing.
Okay, my only notes are real short. One I've already noted, which was that I actually ended up being in Tacoma attending a chess tournament my grandsons were at, and we stopped in at the Historical Museum and looked at the display that they had on the Medicine Creek Treaty, 5th floor. And it was a good display. I mean, they had both the treaty and the actual wording as well as the particular page that they were showing. And then some of the period pieces were also up there in a separate gallery right across basically. And the staff person there, I thought did a very good job of talking about some of the history of the treaty and some of the missteps that occurred in the course of that, which there were several. So anyway, I definitely encourage people, if you get a chance, to go up there and see it. The only other note I have is that I've been continuing to stay connected with the Thurston County Historic Commission's folks who are working on the rack display, and we've managed.
Regional Athletic Complex.
Pardon me?
RAC is Regional Athletic Complex.
Regional Athletic we just call it the RAC.
I know, there's an audience out there, may not.
I know.
Acronyms.
How many haven't played ball there? Any rate, so that is continuing to go forward. They're in the midst of continuing to do some of their mock-up construction at the Thurston County Fairgrounds. And, we've been working with them to get photos over to them. And I know they just sent 2 or 3 of the most recent narrative versions back to Aaron for review. So, that's continuing to move forward. They're hoping to set that in motion in terms of actual construction sometime here late in the spring. So those are the 2 major notes that I have at this point. I think Jen, you'll be doing both Aaron and yourself, so.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, so for Erin, our museum curators, update, a report, she has written a draft of the request for proposals for the historic preservation consultant to do research for the McKinney Building, the Jacob Smith House, and the Long Lake House. And if you'll recall, the McKinney Building is a project that is on your work plan. And our senior parks planner, Jenny Wilson, who's actually here tonight as well. Hi, Jenny. She's drafting an RFQ for the wetland delineation study for the McKinney property. So that's your update on what's going on there, and we'll keep you updated as we go along.
What were the other 2, McKinney and what?
So the McKinney Building, the Jacob Smith House, and the Long Lake House. Yeah.
That one I don't know about.
Yeah, so the city purchased the adjacent property to Long Lake Park. It's a 1.8 acre parcel that got added into our park system in 2022.
Not Long Pond.
That's correct, not Longs Pond. That's at Woodland Creek Park. This is at Long Lake Park. And so there is a house on the property that the city purchased, so we're looking into that house. So we tagged it along with, since Aaron was already doing an RFP to get a historic preservation consultant, it made sense to include the Long Lake House as well and have that work done, so. And then Aaron and Jenny attended a webinar called Adaptive Reuse, Setting Expectations Through the Ages. Aaron also reports the Lacey Women's Club hot water heater broke and caused a flood. They called to ask about historic register requirements. Did you say something? Oh, just terrible, I know. So basically, there are likely no register related review requirements, but if they need to apply for a permit, it should still go through our office. So she shared that information with them. The March History Talk took place here recently on local Jewish history, and the report is that it was fantastic and well attended. There were over 60 people in attendance.
Yeah, I was one of them. Great.
Super good.
Good. At the February craft at the museum, it was called Lunar New Year, Year of the Dragon craft. Children and adults came to the museum to participate, and the feedback that was given is that they would love to see more craft opportunities at the museum. So I'm sure that's something that Felicia will be working on moving forward. And then in the exhibit world, Felicia and Olivia, who's one of our, another intern that we have right now, have been preparing to add an exhibit to the main room of the museum. Felicia has started the design and Olivia is researching and writing exhibit content. So that's all the museum curator had to report. And then moving on to the director's report, one thing I wanted to mention that we discovered is the June Historical Commission meeting falls on Juneteenth holiday, and so we'll be canceling that meeting. We have an annual Parks, Culture, Recreation Department staff retreat today. We started that, and then we will be continuing tomorrow. We're doing 2 3-hour segments, so 6 hours total. And Jenny Wilson actually has been coordinating it, so I want to thank her, especially since she's here. We also had our annual all-city employee recognition banquet and ceremony on Friday, March 1st at St. Martin's University. That was a wonderful opportunity to recognize all staff, but also focus on the benchmarks of the 15 20, 25, and 30+ year employees, which we have a lot of. And then just so you know, we're still trying to reschedule the Ken Balsley Memorial Bench dedication. Currently looking at May, but we need to make sure some key family members can make it, so we'll keep you posted on that. And one last thing of note, the Lacey Depot doors will be getting unlocked. As you know, it's a seasonal facility. So in the morning, those will get unlocked, and then at dark, they get locked, and that will start April 1st and run through the end of October. So people can use the inside. We also have been reserving bookings there. The reservations began in February and are still open all the way through the season. And the depot, we have information about 2023 numbers. It was reserved 72 times in 2023 and brought in $8,300 in revenue. And that was a significant increase from 2022. I want to say 2022 was around $3,000 in revenue. So yeah, the depot reservations for private rentals is picking up.
Oh.
And it's going really well. It's been working well, at least last summer, with the food trucks at the site as well, and some of the market events that are happening there. So the two things, the rentals and the activities, other activities that are going on the site are playing well together. So that's a really positive thing.
I've been noticing that you're getting a fairly consistent crowd there at the food trucks at this point. And I know my grandkids have gone to at least 2 or 3 events last year at the depot, so.
Great. And yeah, next month we'll have more information on the dates for the events that'll be happening. I know that there was an RFP that went out through the Community and Economic Development Department for someone to oversee those markets. And so yeah, we should have more information on that for you next time. So anyway, that's all I had to report. Did you have a question?
Yeah, just make sure the Juneteenth date that would have been our meeting, we're not rescheduling it, we're just plain canceling it, taking June off.
Yeah, we'll take June off. You'll take June off unless if there was.
Don't add, I liked it.
Okay.
We need a month off.
So let's see, I guess what we're at right now is, are there any other items of discussion or questions? I don't hear any, so hearing none, I will entertain a motion for us to adjourn.
So moved.
Kimberly's quick to that. Thank you, Kimberly. Any seconds?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Look that way. We
Any
get
discussion?
Rory on the
Oh, I'm
record.
sorry.
I saw it,
We wanna get her on the record.
Okay. Any discussion in that regard? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, we are done. Thank you all very much. And our next meeting, of course, will be next month, when we'll be talking about the Ken Balsley Award and taking that up at that point. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.